Dave, I think you need a hug to start this Java with Josh. Come here.
I do.
Come here.
I think I do.
Oh, now we do these outlines. We do these notes for the show. They're well prepared. They're well thought out. And on one of the outlines here, it says, "What is Java with Josh?"
Mm-hmm.
And Dave always says it's a live stream of our current events of what's going on, and we drink coffee with it. Cheers! You sent Michael out for a coffee today, and is there a hair again?
No, we're good.
All right,
that's an ISO recording thing.
All right, well. We went live this morning at 9:30 like we were supposed to, and we got about 5 minutes in, and our program that we used to go live just said, done, not going live anymore. And so my good buddy Dave is distraught and depressed and really doesn't know what to do with himself at this point in time. So I apologize. I'm going to take the lead on this. I'm going to ask him to just kind of smile a little bit, and we'll get through this. But the content is still good. The content is great. It's not live, but you can drink whatever coffee you still want with it. And unfortunately, we're not going to have live questions come in this time, but we do have a few questions that came in ahead of time.
We do.
And we'll be happy to take questions as well. So, all right, get the snow off the screen and let's just talk.
Let me just get on my soapbox. We did everything right. We did all the tests and the checks, and then YouTube and Facebook are like, nah, we're not in the mood to live stream your show today. I'm throwing them under the bus.
I'm sorry. It was not meant to be this live stream, but the recording is going to be outstanding, and we'll get this up as fast as we can so that people can watch it, and they're still going to enjoy it. They're going to enjoy themselves some Dave and Josh.
All right. Fair enough.
Oh, poor David.
I know. All right. So those that you saw the first 3 or 4 minutes, Josh was talking about his new year, right? And
yeah, so if you saw the first few minutes, ignore it because I'm going to do it all over. We're going to pretend we didn't talk about it because a lot of you didn't get to see it. So, Dave, let me start with this. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Josh.
And the year will get better from this point forward.
2024 is off to a great start. You know what? New crepes for lunch is going to help.
It will help.
Yeah.
But no, New Year is here, and we had a fun Christmas break. I feel like our Monday meeting we had this week, a couple days ago, as a team, I started off by wishing everyone Happy New Year, even though it was not our first New Year meeting, because of the fact that this is kind of like this is the week that people get back into it, that the life starts getting back together here. And for us, it's the same thing. But last week was my kids' last week of Christmas vacation, as was yours and your wife's. And we did something fun. We went downtown. We went to the Walnut Room because the kids want to go see the Walnut Room for Christmas again at Macy's. But before that, the best thing that we did is we went to this Museum of Illusions. And you said you've heard about this.
Yeah.
We had a blast. So you walk in. It's not very big. It's not very cheap either, but it's not very big. And it takes about an hour to go through it. And everyone from my 7-year-old daughter up to my wife and I loved it. There's all sorts of different optical illusions, from the small ones they have on the wall to giant ones you put yourself in. Like there was this room that you stood from the outside and took a picture of, and if you put the kids in one corner of the room and the parents in the other, it looks like the kids are way taller than us from a perspective standpoint.
It's cool. I
have one where it looks like my son is sitting on a chair, and he looks about the size of a coffee cup, and I have my hand on him. It's just the coolest thing. But I have one of my favorite. I sent a picture here. This is us. This is all 5 of us. Somebody else took the picture, and it looks like we're falling off of a balcony. It looks like my wife is scared that everyone else is falling off. I think my son Zach looks really funny there. He's going sideways in the balcony. But this is nothing more than a mirror. It's an angled mirror going into. We are laying flat on the ground. And it's one of my favorite cool pictures that we have here. In fact, I watched you turning your head now trying to figure out how it is.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Everyone's laying down on the ground, which I think is pretty cool and funny here in how it comes out.
But Missy's not, though, is she?
No, she is actually the only one who's upside down.
She's upside down?
Well, she's laying down, but she's the one who's...
Okay.
She's the one who looks weird. She's the closest to the camera, actually.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So it's all how they took the picture and everything. So, but I highly recommend anyone who is interested, if they're downtown in the Loop, the Museum of Illusions was great. In fact, there was numerous of their friends who went.
Oh, it was a group thing?
No, we just saw afterwards. Like
Oh,
all
okay.
these people who, what'd you do over Christmas break?
Yeah.
Tons of them went to the Museum of Illusions.
So cool.
So it was kind of fun.
So
it's
cool.
kind of neat. So before we get going here, we do have to talk. Oh, this was ours at the Walnut Room too. That wasn't what I was going to show, but
The celebration.
Celebration.
Yeah.
It was a fun thing. The kids loved it. And it was a
cute.
Nice night.
It's just you love showing off pictures of your kids. Do. Yeah. Cool.
Before we get going here and really get into depth, we do have to talk compliance.
Mm-hmm.
This is the unfun part we do every month. What we're about to say, especially right now, with the things we're going to talk about today, it is not specific advice. It is for informational purposes only. If you'd like specific advice, we'd be happy to talk one-on-one and be happy to give you any specific advice that you need. So that is our compliance disclosure that we have today.
Speaking of compliance too, if you saw the first few minutes of the live stream, I did give a shout out to our resident stud Brian for brushing off everybody's snow off their car yesterday.
Yeah,
and
the first Chicago snow yesterday.
Yeah, so I had to say it again because he's the best, and he brought in delicious pastries, and he's just a good dude.
We're gonna get into the content of this here now, and I'm a little worried that you're going to melt on me here if you're gonna make it through this episode.
Like, wait, sweat melt or
no, like the stress, and you haven't come down from the letdown yet.
No, there's really very low stress right now because I can edit anything that goes wrong at this point.
This whole section we just talked about seems kind of pointless.
Yeah, I could just edit it, but I'm not going to because we want to act like it's live.
All right. Normally I have on the schedule for you to tell us what is Java with Josh.
Yep.
Do we still need to do that?
No, let's not do that, but let's show them the upcoming shows.
Yep.
They can get their calendars ready.
Valentine's. We have a Valentine's Day show. You and I can make it all sweet and cozy.
Yep.
Then we're gonna go in and we're gonna get ready for St. Patrick's Day,
and
then we're gonna celebrate the end of tax season there. So that one is pushed out an extra day, but I'm looking forward to those shows, and hopefully we'll be live. You never know.
You never know with us.
Even if we're not, the recording will be outstanding.
Absolutely. And then we also well, go ahead because I don't want to like rush through all of our cool stuff, but go ahead. After that, we'll follow your outline that you wrote there.
I have an outline here.
Yeah, I know. I was going to put up the cool mission statement, but I don't know if you're ready for that yet.
No, I am ready for the mission statement.
Good. Thank you.
Would you explain the mission statement, Dave?
So, no, you're better at doing it. I just added snow, so I was watching how cool that looks. But
there's coffee and snow.
Coffee and
giving
snow.
You the confidence to make retirement the best part of your life. Retirement's a cool thing. Retirement is something that people look forward to their entire lives. And sometimes there is fear that kicks in. And we can't control some of the fears. We can't control some of the emotional desires, but we can control and help you understand the financial side of it. And we want you to have the retirement that you've been thinking about since you started work. And that's really our dream and our passion. And we love hearing stories of things like that when they work out. So.
It's not like Java with Josh. Like, you can't control a lot of things, but you want the best.
Great analogy,
Thank
David.
you.
Great analogy.
All right, let's get down with the presentation. I'm suffering here. I'm sorry, guys.
Well, Dave, today I am bringing out the crystal ball.
Ooh,
this is the prop I bring out every year, about once a year. It is my favorite. Actually, it's my father's. I somehow stole it from him. Crystal ball. And we're going to look into the future and try and figure out what's going to happen in 2024.
Cool.
And this is always a fun thing to do here. So before we get into it, I want to point out to people that this is a part of our Own Your Retirement Planning process. The Own Your Retirement Planning process is something that allows you to take control of your financial future. Now, what everyone thinks about when they think about a financial advisor is they think about investments. They think about what's going to happen in the market. We're going to talk about that today. A lot of Java with Josh is talking about that, but it doesn't go without thinking about all the other things. Where's income going to come from? What about your taxes, your health care, your estate planning? They all go hand in hand and they have to work together. But With that, let's talk about the market. Let's talk about the S&P 500. Last year was a great year. Last year, we had a 24% growth in the market. Now, if we were sitting here last year and we were sitting here and we were looking into our crystal ball, what we would have said was, it's going to be a rough year. I don't know how bad the recession's going to be. I don't, we didn't prognosticate good things.
Oh,
Yeah, did you like that?
wow.
It shows you how accurate we always are with this. And that's why I always take it with a grain of salt, but it does help to look and see what's coming forward. Now, the fourth quarter, if you look here, started rough, had a huge increase. The fourth quarter, we talked about what we called the Santa Claus rally in our December Java with Josh, and it finished strong. There was a lot of tailwinds that came with it. So as we go into 2024, we are looking a little bit happier, if we will. But I want to get technical right here. And this is, I told Sean in our office today that I was going to go through price earnings ratio on the Java with Josh. And he goes, oh, good luck with that one. This is a more complicated topic, but I want you guys to understand it because when we talk about the market, this is an indicator that kind of helps you understand where we are, valued, overvalued, things along those lines. So price earnings ratio, or PE ratio, if you hear that, stands for price earnings ratio. So what it is you take the price of a share of stock and you divide it by the earnings per share. So earnings per share, so a company could have 1,000 shares outstanding, they could have 1 billion shares outstanding. And the company that has more shares outstanding, if they have a profit, if they have the same level of profit, so if the company earns $1 million, the shares are worth less if you have more shares outstanding. So earnings per share is how much profit do they earn per share of stock they have outstanding. So price earnings means, hey, if a stock is trading for $10 and the earnings per share is $1, now we have a 10-to-1 price earnings ratio. Does that make sense? So, well,
no,
it's a value of the stock. It's a value. It's a relative value to it. So it's a way to see is things overvalued or undervalued. And the graph I have over here, if you look, the long-term average, the 20-year average of the S&P 500 is 15.6. So if you look down here in the early 2000s, all the way up until really recently, we were undervalued. We were under that level. And so we would have said, in theory, one of the things we look at is the S&P 500 is under its historical averages from a value standpoint, and we expect it to go. We always think things are going to go back to average. In the late 2020s, things went up. And in fact, they went up quite high. They almost went a second standard deviation out. And now we're sitting right around 19.6% or 19.6 as a price earnings ratio, well above our historical average. Now, the reason I pointed this out and the reason I wanted to go into something so confusing right now is because of this next slide. And I think it's important to understand that here. If we look at this, the top 10 stocks, what they performed is they were 86% of the return. So if we earn 24% on the S&P 500, 86% of that return was 10 stocks. It's a really small number. Those are the tech stocks. Those are the Microsofts, the Facebooks, the Amazons.
Our podcast,
the Java with Josh stocks.
Yeah.
That's not compliant, by the way.
Oh,
you can't say that. But anyways, the remaining 490 stocks represented 14% of that return. So what that tells me is there's a large deviation from the big boys to everybody else. In fact, if I look at that S&P for that price earnings ratio, some people, as we get above 20 or get close to 20, some people get worried about it. And those tech stocks, those top 10, finished the year with almost a 27 price earnings ratio. Remember, if I go backwards here, we were 15's our average. The rest of the stocks are only at 17.1. So it makes me feel a little bit better. And it goes back to the fundamentals that we have out there. Investing is not a short-term game. Now, my next slide here is my favorite, wizard with a crystal ball. That doesn't mean we're not curious. It doesn't mean what do we want to look at for the year. So I want to show you what we're looking at for this year.
Wait, was that your dad holding the crystal ball? Yeah.
Way more hair.
Way more hair.
Um, but these are some trends that we're looking at here compared to last year. And one of them here, if you look at the Fed funds rate, interest rates. I promised I wasn't going to talk about interest rates this time. I lied.
You lied.
We're going
Yeah.
to talk about some interest rates.
Shocker.
But a year ago, Fed funds rate, this is the rate that banks trade money at, was around 4.5%. This year, we're a whole percent higher at 5.5%. So this is why CD rates are gone up, money market rates have gone up. This is why people are excited by cash again all of a sudden.
It's also why mortgage rates went up.
It's part of it, yeah.
Okay.
Part of it. But inflation, if we look at the next one here, inflation a year ago was 6.4%. The CPI, the Consumer Price Index, it's a measure of inflation. This year at the end of November this year, we're at 3.1%. That's a huge difference. Now, the reason those Fed fund rates went up so high is because that inflation was so high. And so now what happens, because they've raised those Fed fund rates, the inflation has started to come down. So we should be able to anticipate the Fed fund rates to come down this year. We're going to talk about that in a second. And this next one is kind of goofy. I'm going to show you this as good news, but unemployment actually went up. This sounds awful to say this is good news, and I hate saying that. But this is something the Federal Reserve was looking at. If we continue to have record low unemployment, it meant the economy was trucking along too good, and they were going to keep interest rates high. So
funny.
isn't that weird to think about that? So as we look at this, the fact that unemployment creeped up a little bit was actually good news for some of our economic indicators that's out there.
Now, 0.2 is not super dramatic.
It's not super dramatic, but when you talk about
hundreds of thousands
and millions of people, it's a big deal there.
Okay.
So, and then down below you can see some of the bigger things that we're looking at: the higher interest rates, the labor market's moderating. There's some geopolitical uncertainty. We're going to talk about those things as we go through here. But there's three key things that we're looking at. Oh, you put my picture in the right spot there.
Yeah.
Three key things that we're looking at for this year. One is interest rates. Interest rates being cut this year is going to have a big impact on the market. The other thing there are two things that people are going to talk about a lot. The geopolitical uncertainty, the war with Hamas and Israel, could still play a major role in our market going forward. And then this is the year where half of America gets to hate the other half of America because we all think our person's better than the other person. And people get hung up on a presidential election and they make knee-jerk reactions. So we're going to talk about that as well here. So I want to start with the political uncertainty, the geopolitical uncertainty that we have out there with Hamas and Israel. And if we remember, if I showed you that S&P 500, the first drop we had, the big drop at the beginning of the fourth quarter, that was when this war started. And it started because people were totally concerned. Or must have started. I don't know why it started, but the drop occurred because they were concerned that this war would bleed over outside of its borders. We thought the whole Middle East was going to erupt, and this would constrict oil prices, oil supply. It would make everything else more expensive, and that's why you saw a huge sell-off in the market. Now, when it became more realized short-term it wasn't going to spread, and the fact that the Fed stopped raising interest rates, that was two of the major causes of that Santa Claus rally, the big thing we saw at the end of the year. So one thing we have to worry about is it still has the potential to spread. So what happens over there could still restrict our economy. We'll see what happens, and you hope it ends quickly, but you don't know what's going to happen there. The next is the presidential election. And Dave, this is not a political podcast. We can't espouse our political views, but we can talk about it from an economic perspective. And on a presidential year, half the country is going to be unhappy at the end of the year. Half the country is going to think that we are headed in the wrong direction. And I can't believe this happened. Well, you go back and you look at history, and this has happened over and over and over and over again.
Sure.
And in a presidential year, happens once every 4 years. Historically, the first 5 months have been worse than other non-presidential election years. And I think it's because of uncertainty. They don't come through as well. But the rest of the year, once the once the primaries are finished, then we see a better than average year. And it doesn't matter which party gets elected. There's Republicans and Democrats, it doesn't matter. Both of them provide good jumping off points because it provides some certainty to what's out there in the market. In fact, what you're seeing there on the right-hand side of the screen, the 10-year growth of a $10,000 investment in an election year. Every single year has been positive except for the 2000 election. And that had two major crises in it between 9/11 and the collapse of the market in 08. So everything else, doesn't matter who it was, Republican or Democrat, we've had major increases. Now, I want to point out a few key things here. When we think about a long-term investor, and that's what we encourage almost everybody to be, is a long-term investor, market returns have been positive in 20 out of the last 24 election years, averaging 12%. Okay. They performed well under both parties. It doesn't matter who gets elected, Republicans or Democrats. Now, when FDR got elected back in 1933, some people did not like him. They didn't like things that he did. $1,000 investment in the S&P 500 in 1933 would be worth over $19 million today. And there have been 7 Republican and 8 Democratic presidents. And so it doesn't really matter. We try and think about the fact is this, even though we may get really angry at whatever happens in the outcome, which side you support, don't let that make emotional decisions to you. It's happened before, and it's going to happen again, and it's going to happen again, and it's going to happen again. The market does perform well under both scenarios. So, and we have been here before. We have done this. So make sure we're aware of that. Now, what does have more impact than the president, though, where I said the presidential election doesn't have a major impact, the monetary policy does have a major impact.
I thought you were going to say the new crepe of the month was the bigger thing that was
when Jive Turkey and I mean
Mac Daddy.
November, December, big months in the market.
Big.
Java. I mean, we had the Jive Turkey, and then we had the Mac Daddy. I mean, we should tell Niall.
Niall drove the economy.
He did.
Good for him.
Those are great breaks. But
I just had to break it up. Oh, really quick. I needed to show this really quick.
Who's that?
That's Josh Allen, quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. They just won the AFC East. They're back in the playoffs. They're the hottest team in the NFL. They're going to win a Super Bowl. Carry on, Josh.
I'm about to talk about interest rates, and you bring up the Buffalo Bills.
Since I was 7th grade, I've been obsessed. So
you have been. Yep. I've known you since almost not 7th grade.
No, but junior year of high school.
And you've been a Buffalo Bills fanatic since then.
The 1,000 or so people are going to watch this. I guarantee there's 500 Bills fans. So.
Well, let's talk about what does drive things. And something that we're going to watch this year very closely is what the Federal Reserve does with interest rates. And I told Dave I wouldn't talk about interest rates. We're not going to be able to get away from it. And if we looked up into the last couple years, we have had a drastic increase in interest rates. It is the quickest rise in history. And it has caused some market turmoil as it's done that. 2022 was a great example of that. We have not seen a rise in interest rates since July. July through November, December, they kept saying, we're probably still going to. And then they said, nope, we're done. We are going to start decreasing rates. In fact, what you see here in these blue dots is the Fed's own prediction of where interest rates are going to be. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Their prediction, they don't really care what their prediction is when they actually do it, but that is what their prediction comes into play. So what does that mean? That is great for the market. The market likes lower interest rates. If you look on the right-hand side, it shows you the average performance when Fed rates start to happen. Average is 5%. If we're not going into a recession, it comes up to 15%. In recession years, it does hurt us here, but the Fed cutting rates is a good tailwind for the market as we're going into it this year. So this is something that we do watch, and I think will be important for the year going forward. Now, what I'm not going to get away from is our asset class returns. What this tells me, and listening what I've said so far, now more than ever is the time to diversify and diversify appropriately. We finally were able to add 2023 to this chart here. We've been showing prior years here, and 2023 was the year of large cap stocks. It was the year pretty much of anything except commodities. Commodities finished dead last. Now, the prior year, commodities finished first. It was one of the only things that had a positive rate of return. Now, what happens is a lot of us will chase performance. We will chase, hey, commodities did great. Let's do great now. Let's go after it now. And if we would have done that, we would have really, really felt, we would have lost out on things. The problem is the emotions get the better of us. And if you see in the middle there, good, proper asset allocation over the long term, asset allocation means diversification, is the way to go always. Trying to get those emotions out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
This next slide is blank. Do you want to know why?
Are you gonna draw? Are we doing like Pictionary or something?
No, it's not Pictionary because I have showed the yield curve in every job with Josh we've done, and I'm not going to this time. It doesn't matter, so I left a blank slide just because of it. So
Happy New Year to us.
Yield curve talk this time.
Oh, phew.
Let's talk about tips for the year.
Sure.
And again, these are tips. These are informational tips only. They're not specific advice, but tips to start the year 2024. Get diversified now. Don't wait. Now is the time to do it. Don't make emotional decisions. Don't sell everything and run to cash. Don't put everything into the market because the market did good. Stick with good, solid diversification. With interest rates starting to come down, if you have things that are you want to be safe, again, I've said this for a few months now. Now is a great time to lock in short-term rates. And the third one there is don't get emotional. Now, these are the exact same tips, these first three that I gave last month to finish 2023. They still hold true right now, and they will probably for another couple months. But the last one there falls back into our mission statement. But let's make 2024 the best year that you've lived yet. It's not your best year ever because you might have more better years in the future. More better. You might have better years in the future, but let's make 2024 the best one yet.
More better. You wouldn't have come up with that if you were alive.
No, that would have never come out of my mouth live.
No, so good thing.
So, but no, I think it'll be a good year. But diversification matters and not making emotional decisions.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
So, now usually this is the point where we turn to live questions.
Yeah.
And Clay or Pradeep or somebody who watches regularly will chime in with a live question. They can't today because this is recorded.
No.
But
we do have a couple of pre-submitted questions.
Before
we do that, I would like to put this up on the screen. Despite the issues that we had today, it would mean a lot to us if you could like this video on YouTube and subscribe to our page, obviously. The more people that like it, the more YouTube will show it to other retirees and soon-to-be retirees. So please just hit that like button. We would greatly appreciate it. Now, is that okay?
Yeah, that was great.
Cool. So 2 pre-submitted questions. Would you like me to ask them?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay. First comes from Linda, and she asks, is a solo 401k a good idea? Before you answer it, can you explain what a solo 401k is?
Oh, I'm going to do that.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a 401k plan is, most people know what a 401k plan is. You can take money out of your paycheck, put it into a retirement vehicle, usually regular or Roth, and you can spend it for retirement. Now, big companies have had these forever and ever. Solo 401ks are exactly what they sound like. They are designed for single employers. So if you have no employees.
Oh, if you own a business and
you own a business, have no employees, they call it a solo 401k.
Okay.
And it's just it's one of the retirement plans that sole owner businesses can have. The reporting requirements are a little bit less. So if you have a big a company as a 401k, there's all sorts of testing and things that have to happen behind the scenes. They can be expensive to have. A solo 401k doesn't have the same testing. It has the same tax rules. So it allows people to put money in out of their paychecks, allows matches to go in.
Mm-hmm.
For a entrepreneur, an individual business owner, a solo 401k can be, it's not for everybody, but can be very beneficial if you're looking for tax deferred savings. Once you get above a certain threshold, you do have testing requirements and things that you have to pass again. But especially for people, if you want to be able to put away the most you can into a 401k and you own your own business, a solo 401k may be the way to go. But again, this is something you want to talk to your tax accountant about to make sure it fits perfectly for your situation.
So it's different than like I've seen an SEP IRA before.
Yeah, there's different contribution limits. An SEP is also a retirement plan that is commonly used by sole owners.
Mm-hmm.
They're very similar, but there's different contribution limits.
Cool.
So
okay,
that come into those.
Great. And second question is from Ellie. When talking profits, you sell all the gain on your stock and leave your cost basis intact, or you sell your cost basis and leave just the gain. I have no idea what any of that means.
I kind of do. This is not a long-term investing approach. This is a approach for people who get emotional. They think about it differently. They think about stocks in the way that people who go to Las Vegas think about gambling. You put $100 down on the craps table and you win 50. Do you take the 50 off and keep betting your 100 because that's the amount you're willing to lose? Or do you take the 100 off and you just gamble with the house's money? Well, what you have to realize is when the money goes up, let's use that same example where you bet 100 and you win 50. It is now all your money. It doesn't matter. It's not somebody else's money. It's not winnings. It essentially is all yours. If you lose that money, no matter if it's yours or the house's, you still lost money. If you gained money, you still gained money. So I want you to think about it differently and say, okay, here we are today. Here we're going to be whatever point in the future. How do we maximize that growth? And that is going to be very different for every single person. So depending on how much you spend, what your tax brackets are, what your goals are, Ellie, I'm going to challenge you to think differently about how you look at your investments, because it is mental in that standpoint where you do have to think about it as a big picture and the broad picture approach. We can't just think about the individual, because that's when we will get hurt. So
excellent. I'm just looking at her email, Josh, because I sent out an email. Yeah, nothing came through.
Nothing crazy there?
No, nothing came through. Let's put this back up. Excellent. So, sorry we don't have more questions to read live. Again, I'm going to blame YouTube and Facebook. So,
the last part I do want to go through.
Yeah.
Do we have to think about our quarterly education event coming up?
I can pull some up really quick if you'd like. But
actually, no. Let's just do this here. So,
sure.
Every quarter for our clients and their friends, excuse me, we do a education event. This quarter, coming up on January 25th, it's going to be at the Morton Arboretum out in Lisle, Illinois. And I am bringing in one of our industry experts. His name is Ben Sullivan. He is a CFA who works out of AE Wealth Management. He does an amazing job of understanding the markets, and he can take some really complex issues and make them sound really simple. But he is going to expand on a lot of what we talked about today. So if you have more details, more questions, if you want to hear Ben talk about the outlook for 2024, I highly recommend that you do that. And if you'd like to attend, please email info@fsrwealth.com. Again, that's info@fsrwealth, and we will get you those details. If you're a client of ours, you'll already get that email that you can sign up for it. If you're not, though, and you'd like to attend, email info@fsrwealth, and we'd be happy to have you there.
By golly, you sounded like a well-versed radio ad there. Email info@fsrwealth.com. Again, email info@. So you got this, man.
Sometimes I feel like I need to act very confident when you're having a rough day.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Someday you do that for me, and we lift each other up.
Sure.
So
sure.
That was what today was all about.
Oh, I appreciate it. And then, I'll summarize today's show if you're ready for that.
Ooh, yeah.
But before I summarize that, I would like, again, please, if you missed it before, like this video, subscribe.
Is that
We
really
would
the
love
best
it.
picture of me you could find?
No, I literally chose the worst still frame of you. And this is from an episode, like, I don't know, back in probably August. And, oh no, I'm wearing my Halloween stuff. So October. And I'm not changing it ever. It's just the greatest thing ever. So just to summarize today's show, 2024 has a very positive outlook, but it's going to be lots of distractions this year. Don't make emotional decisions based on the talking heads on TV, all the political crap we're going to see.
Or even my talking head. I mean,
Yes.
Make sure it applies to your situation.
Yeah.
So,
Was that a good summary?
yeah, it's a good summary.
Good. Appreciate it.
Look forward to seeing us live on Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm. Live on Valentine's Day. And yeah, maybe we'll do something special. We really haven't done anything super special live on air during like a holiday.
I don't know what you got planned for Valentine's Day, but
No. We'll see. Maybe I'll wear something risque. All right, everybody. Thanks again.
and sorry for not being live, but we hope you enjoyed the recording episode here.
We appreciate you. Bye.